Hello and good morning. Thank you for joining. We have people starting to arrive. Um, Again, an amazing response to our invitation to join this year's very interesting discussion. A couple of hundred registered participants. And probably we need a few seconds to allow them all to enter from the waiting room into the webinar. Um, our topics for today are data governance, and artificial intelligence in public sector and procurement. This is particularly relevant, especially in the context of new European Union policies and new technology innovations. Obviously, I'm speaking about artificial intelligence, GPT tools, large language models, who have transformed significantly the world, the economy, and the society during the past 3-4 years. AI is not a hype anymore. People are using AI every day. So it remains an important topic for our webinar today as well. And we touched it during our previous very interesting webinars as well. I need to repeat that last year, two of the Nobel Prize winners for chemistry and for physics won their awards for contributions with and on artificial intelligence. And it might be interesting to give an interesting news. It's for the first time in history that artificial intelligence really passed the Turing test. In March, it was a scientific paper and test. GPT-4.5 passed the test with 76%. So it convinced more people that it is human than humans convinced other people that they are human. Which is a breakthrough. As a reminder, the Turing test is probably the most practical and pragmatic test for testing if a computer behaves like a human. So it is not distinguishable from a human. It was proposed 60 years ago by the great British mathematician and pioneer in IT, Alan Turing, and it still remains, in my opinion, the best test that we have for artificial intelligence. Also, obviously, we not ignore the new political context. Europe still needs to find its way in a multipolar world where we obviously collaborate and also compete with multiple other strategic players like the United States and China. And today, this touches also political aspects, not only economical or social or environmental, where we were used to play on this scene. Today, we have the great pleasure to introduce two guests with background and experience from all the worlds. We have both from the academic world, from research, from the public administration and the public sector. Professor Michel Bosco is an expert at the Institute Europea, is professor at the University Côte d'Azur, director of the European Cybersecurity Organization, experienced in space cybersecurity defense, and he spent 26 years in research and innovation working for the European Commission. Professor Joep Komverts is a professor at the Catholic University Leuven, at the Public Governance Institute. He specializes in digital and data governance, public sector innovation and interoperability, and he founded the Erasmus Master on Public Sector Innovation and E-Governance. I'm your host today. My background is IT management, did a lot of pan-European IT complex projects. My focus is on Hermix. Hermix is a technology and data platform for public sector sales analytics. We help companies win public contracts, analyzing huge amounts of data to generate leads, to analyze and qualify tenders, to automate bids and generate proposals. Today, data and technology impacts the whole society. We have today the opportunity to significantly transform, to disrupt public procurement and sales, being at an interesting intersection of great opportunities. I like opportunities myself. We have huge computing power, incredible algorithms and technology, especially related to big data science and artificial intelligence. And we are in a sector, public sector procurement, which is still inefficient, formal, heavy and bureaucratic, but it is huge. So the topics for today, the agenda. Professor Kromowicz will make an introduction on new trends in data governance with topics such as reusability and interoperability of large data infrastructure, and considerations on AI adoption in the public sector. And Professor Michel Bosco will share with us insights on AI transforming public procurement. For the house rules, chat is open, QA is open, the discussion is open. We like to be interrupted. Actually, we love questions. Please feel free to raise hands, send messages if you want to speak or be invited as a panelist. So, Professor Kromowicz, the scene is yours. Did I stop my sharing? Yes.
Welcome everyone, and thank you Stefan, and thank you Hermix for allowing me to speak here, and it's for me also a real joy to do this together with Professor Bosco. I also would like to thank the audience for attending and for participating and for listening to this topic entitled Data Governance and AI in the Public Sector. And what I would like to show in the next 10 minutes, it's quite relevant to invest in data governance in order to benefit or to make strong benefit from AI. And I would like to focus in this context really on the public sector because I work at the Public Governance Institute. So the presentation is based on two topics about AI in the public sector and then followed by data governance. So let's focus first on the topic of AI. What I would like to emphasize is that data and governance are a vital player in the development and the future development of society. And it's good to know that I used some slides of a PhD student with who I worked a lot with, Colin van Noord, and he made this graph together with some colleagues from the GRC, and they distinguish 4 different roles for government in this AI ecosystem domain. First, as a regulator and to develop relevant laws and policies, but also as enabler to make investments and to create an appropriate legal frameworks. But also the government could play the role of a leader and to enhance AI capacity and to build partnerships with the private sector, with other organizations as well. And it is very important also to make that also the government itself could be a user in order to, in particular, automating their processes or to make better decisions. What we see in general is that the debate about AI and the government is really focused on other aspects than the using. But the using aspect is also important for the government as well. What I would like to mention here is an important distinction between 2 types of governance in the context of AI. Governance of AI, and then we refer to the roles of regulator, enabler, and leader, and governance with AI, and then the role of user pops up. I will go quite quickly through the next 3 slides. And as you know, the government has 3 important tasks: making policies, delivering services, and also better manage it itself. AI is able to improve various stages in the policy making, in particular in different steps of the policy cycle. Think about that it could make easier do some detections. It could also look for do easy and better making scenarios for policy impacts. And also, it could support making better decisions and faster decisions. And also it could in the policy domain, it could also evaluate if some policies invade, and that in a very thorough way. And it also all contributes to make the public sector more data driven. And here we see some examples from Dublin, Estonia, Amsterdam, where we see really how that is also used already in practice AI in the government for policy making purposes. When we look to public service delivery, then AI could also be used to deliver public service to businesses and citizens. And then we create new services, but can also automate redundant policies, processes, and reduce on-site meetings. It could really improve the public service to citizens and businesses through customization or personalization. And also, hopefully, we hope that through AI, we can easily detect corruption and improve trust in the public service delivery. Also important, and here we see some examples from Barcelona, the Estonian government, and Belgium, where we have also used AI already for a long time about recruitment of staff. But the government could also use AI for its internal purposes. So to improve their own purpose recruitment, as already mentioned, but also to allocate if they have the right people in the right place doing the right actions. And also it could support in order to strengthen itself for financial purposes. It could also strengthen security, but also it could enhance fraud. So there are a lot of potentials where AI could be used. But what I really would like to mention here also today, despite all that AI is everywhere, in the government domain, it is still in a stage of infancy. It is still not very mature. We don't see it's coming up now, but still it's not very applied at the moment still. We see that, and why is it? Why is AI not very well adopted so far in our governments in Europe? Because of technical issues, of legal issues, which we are dealing with data-related aspects. But also I wrote for myself here also public procurement. And therefore I'm so excited that Professor Bosco, he will contribute and he will focus more particularly on that aspect, on the procurement aspect. What I also would like to say, and that I really think the Commission, the European Commission, the European scene, they have done quite a lot in giving order to the potentials and giving more attention to the use of AI in the government. There has been already made in 2021 an action plan, and last year, I think it was made by the Joint Research Center, and the EU calls for strategic AI adoption to transfer public services. And in that document, it really emphasized one of the proposals that were made in order to strengthen the strategic leadership, make the user public sector a trailblazer for AI. What we also see that AI is also supported and also mentioned very intensively in the AI Act, of course, because that's the whole purpose of it. And there are several clauses and a lot of clauses actually related directly to the public sector. And then we have the Data Act, the Data Interoperability Act, and all are facilitating and supporting all these kind of things. Now let's focus on the second part, and that will be a little bit more shorter than than the one about AI and the purpose. Of course, I'm a scientist here, and I have, of course, have to come up with some proper definitions here. So what we mean with the AI, and I refer to the work of Abraham et al. 2019, that data governance specifies decision rights and accountabilities, and mainly doing it for an organization's decision-making about its data. So it is actually a facilitator, an environment creating for doing better data management. Also, it is good to be aware that data management, data governance formalize data, and so indirectly AI and its algorithms for its related policies, standards and procedures, and monitors compliance. But I really would like to say it's a foundation for AI in the public sector. As if, for example, when the data when you build beautiful algorithms on, but the data itself is crap, then what are we talking about the AI algorithms themselves? So we have to be aware of that. So we can distinguish, according to Abraham
Yes.
2019, six dimensions of data governance. We have the governance mechanisms, we have the organizational scope, we have the data scope, the domain scope, the antecedents, and the consequences. It's the main cause of this whole concept framework is about organization mechanisms, organizational scope, data scope, and data domain. But we have some antecedents that have an impact on the governance, the data governance, and we have to take into account the impact that the data governance has on our organization aspects. So I would like to then more in depth, it's about the conceptual framework for the data governance framework. When we see here on the right corner is a reference made to the governance mechanisms. And we see here on the top that consists of three types of mechanisms: structural mechanisms, procedural mechanisms, and relational mechanisms. Structural mechanisms help to plan and control data management activities. And these structural mechanisms aim to report structures and hope and also set the governance bodies and accountabilities. It's very important to allocate and define responsibilities, such as leader, data steward, a data producer, data consumer, and this type of roles. But it's also important that we also allocate decision-making authority. Who is in charge? Who is the mandate of me doing the action? We have relational mechanisms that refers to facilitating collaboration between stakeholders. And here, communication plays an essential role, but also the training of our staff, in the case of the public sector, the civil servants, and also how are we organized our coordination in our decision-making processes. It's also good to know that procedural mechanisms ensure data is recorded accurately, held securely, used effectively, and shared appropriately. Here you think about issues about data strategy, so that we are aware of what are our strategic objectives that needs to be realized. We have policies and standards and procedures. Very important is contractual agreements, and these contractual agreements could be internally as well as externally. We have performance management in terms of effectiveness. Also, it's good to know about compliance monitoring, about tracking and enforcing conformance with regulatory requirements. Then it's about the next is about the organizational scope, and that refers to how far do we have to expand our data management, the governance, and what's the set of the unit of our analysis of our work? Is it intra-organizational that we set up a data governance plan, or inter? For example, an intra-organizational that can be done on a project or organizational level. When we focus on an inter-organizational level, then we focus between organizations, or we even can focus on a whole ecosystem. When we look for the data scope in the pyramid in the left bottom corner, then we see the data scope that's really specifies the type of data that we are really focusing on and that we need to focus. For example, we can focus on traditional data, and we mentioned here master data, transactional data, reference data, this kind of thing. But here, and in particular for AI, it's very important that we work with AI, big data. And that where is the data coming from? You can read there. It is about web and social media, streaming data, biometric data, machine data, and everywhere the data where you can where big data is generated. When we look to the domain scope, it's very important that we look to data quality. Or are we looking more, giving emphasis to the data security? I focus on the data lifecycle, or for example, about the approach of defining, collecting, creating, using, and maintaining and deleting the data. Or are we focusing, for example, on metadata, about the data sensitivity lists, about the data provenance, about the data retention periods? Or are we focusing on data storage and infrastructure as IT artifacts enabling effective data management across organization? But here also we could focus on issues, for example, about data reusability, about open data. How fast should or how much should we open our data? Or how do we deal with interoperability? Then we have to look when we are aware of the external side as well as the internal side of our environment in which we are working in. In the external perspective, you can think about legal issues, but also about our market on which we are operating. From an internal organizational perspective, we have to deal with our strategy, our mandate, our IT strategy, about our architecture, but also very important is our organizational culture, and also about the capacity about the people that we have. Then, at the last, I would like to come, because we do not do it for the sake of that we like data governance frameworks, we really have to look to what are really the impact of all these data governance aspects. And it can be intermediate, or we can focus on all the risk aspects. This brings me to the last slide of my presentation, of my short introduction. It's about what are the benefits. You can say, yup, great, all the things, there's a lot of things that you have to do with it, but why do we invest in it? And that is, here I don't go through all the things, but I feel, based on literature review, but also from practice, that when you really do a proper investment in data governance, that you get better procedures. Hopefully it improves your transparency. Your data reusability will be enhanced. We hope that the value of your data on which you can build beautiful algorithms will increase. Your data will be more available, but also it will improve data security. It will enhance data efficiency. Different levels according to the European interoperability framework that defines different layers. I would like to stop here with my presentation, and I stop here, and I will give you back the floor to you, Stefan.
Thank you. This is interesting. It's not me. It's Michel Bosco. Michel, the floor is yours.
Can you see anything from me now or not? Not yet. Yes, you do?
No. Can
No. Okay. So, that should be it.
Yes, we see it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation, Stefan. Thanks for accepting me next to you, Professor Kropotz. That was quite intro. I've got a dog. You can hear that. Hopefully, the topic of the use of AI in the whole society is a really society changing situation. As for public government, you made a broad and comprehensive picture of the situation, and I think this presentation about AI for public procurement is maybe to focus on one aspect of government activities, that is public procurement. It's an important. It's a major. Trying to solve my technical problem here. Can you see the next slide now?
Yes, it's working. All is okay.
Sorry about it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Public procurement is key to the economy. In Europe, in the EU, there are about 2,000 billion euros spent through public procurement. So you realize that this is huge compared to the EU economy. It's about 50% of the EU GDP, according to Eurostat. So it's a huge matter. 5% improvement in efficiency would mean sparing 100 billion euros, which correspond to twice the money the French government is trying to get next year from in addition to the tax pressure that it imposes. So that's huge. 25%, that's according to the World Bank, 25% of tender values are lost to inefficiency and misuse. I mean, most of us have been preparing tenders or proposals for one or another funding organization or for one or another customer, and we all know that you win 1 out of 3, that's the best cases. 1 out of 20, I've seen EU call for proposals with lower success than that. So you see how much money is spent in preparing offers compared to the money that is distributed through the granting of contracts or subventions. So there is definitely there, as when we think about managing efficiently public funds, there is definitely there a field for improvement. Another important thing, which is not money, but which is resources, which is about the fabric of the industry in Europe, is that because of this situation, because of the investment a company must make in when preparing an offer, only 1.3% of EU companies participate in public procurement. So it's 50% of the EU GDP managed eventually, handled eventually by 1.3% of the EU companies. So we believe that through some research and through discussions, we believe that AI can facilitate, in this case of public procurement, the task of the operators that wish to bid, but also, and that's another interesting thing, the exercise of democratic control over the markets. So anti-corruption activities can be facilitated by AI, and we'll see later on some report on that. And obviously, the work of those authorities that are putting public procurement out for bids can also be facilitated there. So we, further to these discussions, we set a panel in the recent WAIC. That's a quite large conference and fair dealing with AI, which is organized in Cannes, in the Palais des Festivals. So they call it the AI Cannes Festival, and which is organized by Europea, an NGO that aims at facilitating the debates about AI. So it's not promoting AI per se, but it's helping for all kind of citizens, those that are not aware of not much aware about AI, and those that are specialists, experts, to share views in a variety of occasions. So during that conference back in February, we had this panel trying to bring together the three kind of people or organizations that for which we thought AI could facilitate the work. Stefan was there presenting Hermix and what it can do. But we also had two representatives of anti-corruption organizations, Emma, who is a lawyer, with Anticor, a major anti-corruption NGO in France, and Julien Perez, who is an IT specialist who develops AI in support to Anticor. But we also had two organizations that are publishing public procurement. One, the Mairie of Cannes, which has a substantial budget spending each year on contracts to manage what a municipality needs to manage on its territory. So a local public procurement authority, and an international one through Christophe Seneve with the European Space Agency. So you see big budgets. Obviously, the European Space Agency budget much bigger, especially the size of the contracts, very different from a municipality and an international organizations. But we had them answering questions about using AI and how they would see AI facilitating public procurement. And our last panelist has been Emma O'Connell, and she's a researcher on AI for public administration. And I will summarize her conclusions. She spoke at the end to conclude on the scene. So what was discussed, and which I think and we think is quite interesting, is first that AI is today facilitating the life of those companies that are preparing bids. I say companies, but I also think about universities that are now, as you know, all around Europe, they are involved in competitive subvention schemes. Stefan, well, he may say a few words about what his company is providing in terms of services, but that he will do later on. But definitely, there is a business case there for implementing AI on large data sets analysis, so that it brings values to the companies that are trying to bid. It brings values through several ways, by helping to decide for which bid you go. So you don't lose time on bids that you have very little chances to win. You focus on those where you have a real chance based on the analysis of these AI tools that you can run on public data. The nice thing about public procurement is that a lot of data are available publicly about, obviously, the procurements that are open, but also about the past procurements. And it is the analysis of this history of procurement by one specific organization, which, combining data crunching and AI algorithms, can provide you with a real insight about which company is likely to win which bid. I'm even engaged now in some friends bidding on who will win the bids. So it's a new economy. You don't bid on football matches anymore, but you can bid on who is going to win that bid by the European Commission, or that bid by the Belgian government. I'm half joking. So we're doing that with a couple of friends, and I don't know whether this has a future or not, but we're doing that now. On the corruption side, that was very interesting. I found out a bit by chance that Anticor had started using AI, so it wasn't originally something that people who work in this environment have in mind necessarily. I mean, you mentioned it as one added value of using AI in the government sphere. So definitely there is a sense of that there. But Anticor, in this case, and I'm sure they're not the only ones, are actually doing it right now. So basically, they are crunching publicly available data, and they are running IT AI tools on that. They are not looking, if we remember what they said during the panels, they are not looking today at building a case by using AI, but they are narrowing the scope of what they think they should investigate. So basically, they run AI to get information like, well, in this case, this organization with this train of bids could have done things that are not fully legit. So let's investigate further using the usual method. So I remember asking them, but this limitation is about technology, because you don't think that AI today is in a position to tell you the machine is not able to tell you, I'm 99% convinced that there is a corruption case here, or for other reasons. And the answer was mostly for other reasons, mostly. And the other reason is the traceability. If you want to build a court case, you have to bring proof in the court, and it's a similar problem with cybersecurity. I mean, you have to attribute an attack, and it's difficult to trace it back and to prove the trace. When you start using AI tools like ChatGPT or the others on large data sets, you still face this issue of why did ChatGPT tell me that? And if I'm not able to, I can trust it, but if I'm not able to trace it and to explain in a court, then I cannot do nothing about that sort of information. So this is what was most prevalent in the comments by these colleagues. When looking at another side of as another facet of that sphere of public procurement, those who are putting the bids. I asked the municipality of Cannes why were they using AI, and they started telling us that they were using AI, generative AI, across the organization, not just for public procurement. And as regard to public procurement, they explained that they were focusing on the very repetitive public procurements, so not necessarily the big ones, but those that are time-consuming for small values. And they were using that to analyze offer mostly. So it's not used as of today in this place to prepare new bids, but or the text of the subsequent bids and tenders, but it is mostly focusing right now on analyzing offers put as responses to a public procurement. This is something that I'm sure needs to be analyzed. And I mean, is it, again, because that's the current limit of the technology? Or is it because that's what makes more sense for an organization like a municipality of a mid-sized city? I didn't mention, but for those who don't know, Cannes, I think the population of Cannes should be around 50,000, so it's a mid to small size city, but with the full requirements in regard to public services. When asking the same question to a large international organization like ESA, the answer was also that they are currently focusing on the small bids, and for the time being excluding the one-of-a-kind huge bids that they have when they put a bid to basically implement our mission. That means building satellites according to some specs, launching the satellites, contracting a launcher, launching the satellite, getting the data, analyzing the data. That's one big, talking about several tens or even hundreds of millions for one bid. They're not using AI for those for the time being. And again, the answers are not clear about whether it is because it's not the most efficient way to get added value from AI, or whether it's a technical limitation. So after listening to these use cases of AI in public procurement, Emma O'Connell concluded, and she stressed that, in fact, what she was asked, what as a researcher in that field, where do you see AI in public procurement going? And she said, well, basically, you'll have an increased digitalization of the bid processes, including in very small places. And this is happening. We see it happening right now. But she also stressed the fact that this was opening the door to data, to risk as regard to data security. The usual risks, of course, but also the risk for being hacked by competitors, so by people competing to bid, willing to get to access information which is not necessarily publicly available. I mean, there are regulations that say what is publicly available and what is not. And so she was pointing at that risk in particular, so the need for the technology to follow on that. She also saw the risk for scaling down the decisions to cost, arguing that many aspects of the bids, of the procurement and of the bids are getting standardized to help the analysis by AI tool. This may push towards competitors fighting over the fight and not very much over the rest. So we may see, that was something that she alluded to, we may see a shift from the current formulas applied in international bids as at least that determine who is the winner based on the price and on the technical offer, to mechanisms that would select, for instance, the second lowest bidder. I think that Switzerland does that already now in a large number of public procurement. So instead of choosing the cheapest, you choose the second cheapest to try and avoid that the system brings the competition down to the price only. So that's where we stand now in this area. Definitely a lot, as in any area of application of AI, a lot of things are going to change in the next years. But we can see that definitely there is a paradigm shift in public procurement that results from AI, and it's a reality. Even small cities are already engaged in that. So I don't share the view of you, or I don't know if it was his view or if it was a conclusion from previous studies that public organizations, local governments are so much behind in using or in trying to use AI. I think that it has reached them because it has reached so many people overall that it has even entered that world that tends to be conservative. I also chatted a lot, and that will be my few words, with colleagues in the European Commission, which, by the way, former colleagues in the European Commission, who, by the way, did not send anyone in the panel in Cannes about the issues. And they are quite, because, the European Commission is a big public procurement authorities, but they also regulate, as it was mentioned, the way these things developed. And among the things they told me is that local governments are quite active. So they don't worry so much, of course, it's a generality, about the uptake of AI. They worry more about access to data, legit and non-legal access to data, or encouragement of hacking of public servers, etc., rather than the uptake of AI. So thank you very much for listening, all participants, and obviously happy to get questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely very interesting with the insights from the several points. Thank you again for also for the discussions that we had until now. I mean, this is a continuation of a series of discussions, discussions that I had with Professor Krumbas from quite a few years ago, with discussions of Cannes in February. Thank you, Michel Bosco, for organizing the Europea conference and for inviting us as well. Maybe I should bring a couple of considerations, practical considerations regarding, coming from our experience at Hermix, from the analyzing public procurement data, especially with this kind of modern technology tools. We are a data company. We kind of import and analyze millions of tender notices. By the way, could you maybe stop sharing? I think you have to click on stop share.
Well, I need to find where to click. But I'm lost in my. Okay, just continue. I will stop quickly, or as quickly as I can.
Is my screen shared now? I hope so. I was saying we are a data company.
You're not shared. You've not shared your poem.
Not shared?
No.
Okay. Am I still sharing or now? No.
Solved.
Now sharing.
I think it's solved. So we imported and we continue to import a lot of millions of documents and tender notices and to process them. And it's very interesting that the paradox of public data is that it's both over-collected and underused. And the kind of issues that we face, for instance, as a data company, is obviously, by the way, availability is super okay. In the public sector, you can find a lot of data. And we have these regulations that were presented.
May I interrupt on that one, Stefan? You said that you were happy to be interrupted, so I do it first. Yes, data is very available. Legally speaking, public procurements are making public organizations very transparent about it. But I know at least of one organization that has been contacting, and it was not your company, and it was not the European Commission. So I'm happy to make it to talk about it without mentioning who. But basically, they were saying AI algorithms pinging on their data servers, and they contacted the company that was doing that, so sort of doing what you do, and to tell them to stop. So it was there is an issue there, and I'm talking about publicly available data. I'm not talking about, of course, people hacking into a server looking for data that they are not allowed to see. So simply the fact that there is a huge difference between accessing the data manually and accessing data for being crunched and compiled, etc., through an algorithm is making a huge difference in perception and in reality. But go on, sorry about that.
Absolutely, and we started to face this problem as well. It's a great topic. We also face this problem, and I will give a few details immediately how, but it's very relevant. I was saying that from a policy point of view, we have all these frameworks, and Professor Cromwell made more details about this regarding data availability for public procurement, national level, European level, and so on, regarding spending, regarding budgets, also data interoperability and standardizations, and obviously ethics and privacy, where we have quite conflicting views from the private, the academic, and the public sector, and the society, the civil society actors. So the type of issues that we are touching ourselves is data availability, the interoperability and standardization, which is also related to availability and to quality, and passing to the next level is the quality of data which impacts us, and meaning. And for us, what we do is actually meaning. And what I mean is that availability is quite high. You get a lot of data everywhere. You go to Google, you search tenders, you get billions of data points. Now, regarding interoperability and standardization, the issue is not the lack of standards, it's rather the compliance with standards, because every data source and every procurement portal that we use has a different standard. And there are a couple of European standards, and not even the European Commission respects them. European Commission has about 3 standards and 5 procurement portals, and they use all of them simultaneously, and some they have a proprietary one. The big points where we concentrate is on quality. No, this is the moment to mention availability. So in theory, data is available. In practice, a lot of data sources and authorities, even if they publicly say, yes, data is free and available, and we have the open data portal, which is mandatory for all the public sector, right? It becomes mandatory for all public authorities, including we have the European open data portal and national open data portals. In practice, we have barriers to downloading and crunching huge amounts of data. And yes, we started to have problems because of the AI tools, because LLMs and AI is very data hungry. So now, before you had 3 web search tools like Google, Alta Vista, and Bing, and they were crawling the internet only once every page. But now you have hundreds. So I can fully understand that if you are the European Commission and you have 2,000 crawlers coming every day to download everything from the website and from your data sources, that will be a problem. So there are conflicting issues here that we understand. And that we should solve rather than block. Now, the problem of quality, we do not expect the problem of quality means wrong data, missing data, wrong addresses, wrong names, using, lack of compliance to their own standards or to international standards and so on. So that's where we concentrate. We clean up a lot of this. And the big question, and this relates to what you are saying regarding anti-corruption, using data for fighting corruption. It's also a question of meaning. So you have all this data. You make it, also you increase its quality through a lot of, data cleanup and data engineering tools. And we do use AI as well as a lot for this. But the question is, so what do you do? What answers do you give with this data? So, for instance, talking about data quality. Look, this is in Hermix. We have this all kinds of sources of data, and we import them from Belgium, Norway, Germany, 4 European portals. We import these millions of contracts. So this is data, and we already clean it up. And then you can organize your own projects and markets in Kanban boards like this. And then you can look at tenders, right? And cleaning up a tender means that when you look at the tender, you are able to get insights regarding who won before, partnerships, consortia pricing, like this one. But you can also go to authorities and create graphs of who does what. For instance, this is EIB. This is the market of the European Investment Bank, like the industries, what they are buying, and so on, and even from whom they are buying. So this is their graph of suppliers, the main suppliers, the countries of their suppliers, right, by country and so on. So it's this kind of questions that you get to answer when you clean up sufficient data and you give meaning to this data. Like as I was showing here, meaning like I have another example that I opened earlier. For instance, this is a company, this is Fujitsu, right? And you have here the history and map, the graph of their partners, and the same about their contact points, market. Look, for instance, this is their market, the graph of their customers all over Europe. Main customers. You can do this kind of analysis per country as well. So in what countries do they operate? This is where their main customers are. So they make most money in Germany and Spain. And even what do they do? So this is, you find out what a company is doing. And this is interesting from the other point of view as well. From the public authority point of view, you get answers like, what do we do? Because we heard about this kind of things, about authorities saying, we have our own problem to understand actually what we are doing as well. So this is from where is Fujitsu delivering and what they are doing, mostly IT, of course. So I was also thinking about mentioning a couple of applications of AI ourselves, what we are currently doing, what we are using. We started with a couple of pilots 2, 3, 4 years ago, but now I'm using AI every day, GPTs, and to clean up data, to get meaning, even to format slides, but also in Hermix to get company descriptions, to get news, and so on. So practical applications for us is in the quality area to clean up all this data that we have, in the development as well, obviously to do ontology mapping, for instance, to get all these standards to be more aligned to what kind of data we know, but also in the data meaning. Like, for instance, you are talking about understanding data. So basically, you can, when you have this huge graph, like contractors, contracts, authorities, you can match together, and then you can find subgraphs which would, for instance, answer to the question, give me a group of interests, companies that are behaving in a synchronized manner. They are in a group. More and more we started to go towards GPT. Like, for instance, we integrate search GPT tools, which becomes incredibly powerful. Obviously, I'm more and more convinced in a couple of years Google will be replaced by search GPT, and it already included. Actually, Google, now it gives not only answers, not only search results, but also interprets these results. Which again, it's an ethical problem and the copyright problem more and more, because Google summarizing news that is opening again a huge copyright issue, and I'm very curious on how this will go. In the last years, these big companies that are analyzing data and are publishing, Google had this problem. They are publishing third-party content like news and newspaper information, and it becomes more and more of a problem because now they are giving answers using this kind of information. So that's where we are going. This kind of tools will allow us, and we already aim to be a part of the sales and bid team of companies and the procurement teams of public authorities. This kind of friendly robot, very smart, very intelligent, that is able to analyze data very, very fast. I will not go into details about what Hermix is doing. Please come to our website. We do data analysis, monitoring, market intelligence, technical requirements analysis for public procurement. And come to our website, register, send us questions and answers. We received some questions, doctoral research. Yes, we do analyze data and standards on a very practical level because we import this data and we have to know the standards. And as I was saying a little bit earlier, a lot of the data import does not respect any particular standards. We do also scraping. Some data sources do not allow any kind of data access, so we need to play around with data. Please send me a message on LinkedIn, email, or on our website if you want additional details for this. So this was for a doctoral research question. I think we have 1 more minute to see if we have any other points here. I had fun. I am interested as well in the last 30 seconds of Professor Kromowitz. I was curious, how do you feel the interest of academia and research, where you are obviously in the Public Governance Institute, how do you feel the interest changed in the last few years towards the topic of business to government and public procurement?
Thank you. It is really it's a really booming business, and more and more public servants, which are our focus group, and politicians are aware of this issue. So it is from all different levels, from local level to international level to global level to different areas of the world, everywhere in the world. This topic is really huge and very important, and also what was highlighted by Professor Bosco. Yeah, that's really the relevance is there, and it is so important to focus on it. So I think from academia perspective, that's great. I would like to echo a little bit what Professor Bosco said. He was challenging me about my statement about that he disagreed with my observation, and he has his own rights, of course. This was a study based on AI Watch, which was finished until 2024, and until that time we could identify around 1,000 different applications where AI was used, and they were mainly related to chatbot. So it was quite. Now we see in the last 1.5 year, and there I agree with you, Michel. It's about the use of AI. It's booming. It's now much more about different levels, but still, when we look to the opportunity, I think we are still in the stage of infancy for what are all possible and how can AI be better exploited in the public sector. So that is, I think, my statement that I wanted to make, Michel and Stefan. I hope that I've answered appropriately your question.
Thank you so much. I think our time is up. It was lovely to have you here, and looking forward to continue these discussions.
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you to all the participants. Bye, Joe.
Bye-bye. Take care. It was a joy to meet you. Bye-bye.